Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Top Flight Pod. You know what it is, you know what we're here to do. We're back on screen today, beautiful Austin, Texas, and with my G Primo, got the Bayern kit, got the Austin
Mm,
FC hat. Primo, what's up, mate? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's midweek. A few days have passed by since our loss on Sunday, and it's getting me at least time to kind of analyze our season and really take in everything that happened throughout this whole year. I know a lot of people were disappointed after Sunday, but uh, but I think overall it was a decent season. We'll
I,
probably get into it.
I think that's perfectly said, mate. That's the idea with this. It's kind of a bit of a late drop, gotta be honest, right? I know a lot of folks are used to listening to the pod on Monday. But games on Sunday throw things off, and we said, hey, we'll take a couple days to kind of think about what we want to say, think, kind of take things in, get ready to close out this series and close out this season, right? And we'll have Bali and Stu very soon to also get their final thoughts on what 2025 was to them. I know a lot of folks want to hear what Bali has to say, especially after what ended up happening in 2025. I think maybe some folks are going to say Bali was right. Some folks are going to definitely throw that one out there, right? But hey, there's two different ways to look at things, and the goal is to try to get everybody's opinions on what 2025 was. But today we'll get ours, Primo. A lot to talk about. Of course, going to unpack game two of the series versus LA and talk about kind of what 2025 was for us now that everything is said and done. I want to send a shout out to everybody on the Patreon, everybody on the Discord. Shout out to LV for hosting watch parties for every single game this season. I'm sure it's going to be like that in 2026. So keep an eye out for that information when we get to it in 3 months, 3 whole months, mate. We got to get through the holidays first, Primo. Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that good stuff, Valentine's Day, tax season, and then Austin FC will
Season.
roll back around. But Primo, let's get into some of the topics that we have here tonight for the episode. And to get kind of the ball rolling, I kind of want to talk about our overall thoughts on the season, on what 2025 was for you, what 2025 was for me. And I'll read a couple of things here. Of course, in the regular season, 34 games, you had 13 wins, 8 draws, 13 losses, 37 goals scored. That's the lowest in the West. Only Montreal and DC United scored less, and they are in the Eastern Conference. So not too good on the goal score department there. A lot of work to do for next season. 45 goals conceded, Primo. That's fifth best in the Western Conference. I think we can hang our hat when we're talking about things done defensively for Austin FC. 47 points earned in 2025. That was good enough for sixth place, Primo. Not too good, not too bad though. Kind of in the middle of the pack there when we're talking about playoffs. There was a cup final that was reached, but you and I both know that it was lost at home at Q2 Stadium. A very deflating day. We were both there. We know what that was like. And a season-ending injury to Brandon Vázquez in the summer that definitely, messed things up when we're talking about the plans for the club. And, just kind of think having those things in mind, of course, kind of closing out on 2025. How did you see this season, mate? What are your overall thoughts on it?
Overall thoughts. I really think we had, not too bad of a season. I think,
Mm.
a lot of people look at certain games and base their opinion off of those games. But this was a whole season, and I think overall we did all right. Especially without having our star player, our DP Brandon Vázquez, which before he got injured, it kind of looked like he was about to take off. He was being, he was scoring. He was being the main person people were looking for to get something. And so without having him in the attack, definitely hurt us there. I mean, like you mentioned, those goals, we had the lowest in the Western Conference. But at the same time, our defense kind of saved us, I think. We finished sixth, I think, due to our defense. And so overall, I would give it what if we're doing letter ratings. I would give it a solid B.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
B minus maybe.
Okay.
Um, I think we showed a lot of character. We showed a lot throughout the season, and with different things getting thrown at us. But it's definitely a step forward from last year, I think.
Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, if you put it on paper, black and white, it is a lot of improvements when we're talking about playoffs. Obviously, getting to the Cup final in the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, you and I, again, we both know how bad Austin had it done in the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, eliminated by some teams that you shouldn't have been eliminated by in this competition where we're talking about Austin FC. But when we're talking about at least how I see it, how I perceive 2025, mate. I mean, whenever we talked about it in Stu with B, I sounded just a little bit higher. Unfortunately, with the exit versus LAFC, just in the manner that second game kind of went, and I know we're going to talk about it here a bit more, but I think we showed we showed to the world, especially a day that everybody was watching because Son was on the pitch. I feel like that wasn't the Austin FC that did a lot of the good things right this season. I don't think that game against LAFC game 2 is a reflection of who that team was this season. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people are going to judge them on that game. And it's just because it was the last one and it's the one that takes you out of playoffs and it's the last one that fans are going to have in their mind of 2025. But like I said, I don't think that was a reflection of what the team was this season. But overall, I think I'm kind of there with you and B, kind of like in the very low B's. Yeah, you got to give credit to the side for making it to the Cup final, right? I think very few fans had Austin FC, sniffing silverware in 2025, and they did. It was very unfortunate that Brandon Vázquez went out injured. I think Nico, I think Rodo Borel, I think Anthony Precourt, all the fans for sure felt that day that Brandon Vázquez got injured. I think everybody felt like, man, this definitely is going to throw things, out of whack. And it did. But kind of what Coach Nico was hinting at in the press conference after the loss against LAFC in game 2, he was, the famous quote that fans are kind of talking about. They were saying that, Coach Nico said that they created an identity. Brandon Vázquez got injured. They created another identity, and then Rubio got injured. But you try to build something, then players get injured, and I feel like that's what Austin FC season kind of went. I mean, this last game, you don't even have Osman Bukari at your disposal, and for me, that's just kind of like what Austin FC season kind of went like this year. That there needs to be a lot of work done in the goal production department, 100%. I mean, that's a no-brainer. To only have DC United and Montreal have less goals scored than you, I mean, that's absolutely embarrassing, man, if we're being quite honest, and especially after the investment that was made in the attack. But again, we mentioned how Brandon Vázquez went out injured for the season right in the middle when things were starting to gel, but not really, but they looked like they were headed for the right direction, we must say. But like I said, I think I'm back down there with you and B Primo in the low B's, not so high in the B plus areas for the 2025 season. I'm excited for 26, and I want to get your thoughts, Primo. I think this offseason, very much like this previous one, is going to be one of the most important. They just get more important for Rodo Borrell, for the ownership, and I kind of want to get your thoughts. I mean, what are you most excited about for in this offseason?
Definitely the signings. I think everyone's looking
For
forward
sure, for sure.
to the obvious the signings. I think I'm excited to see where they want to reinforce themselves. We had a pretty decent defense, I think, throughout the year. Our forward, we still have Brandon Vázquez that's expected to come back, sometime next year. So it's interesting to see if we are going to get some more support in the attack. And it gets exciting. It sucks a little bit because we go a long time without seeing any games or really getting much from the team, but we try to make the most of it. And I always like the rumors, the rumors that get leaked out, the leaks.
Yeah.
But and also, like, if they bring in any new coaching staff, any new performance staff, anything that would help out the team. So all that is what I'm looking forward to.
No, definitely, mate. I mean, not only the signings, just like you mentioned, I want to throw in there the departures. I think that there's a lot of, interesting storylines going into this offseason, Primo, where it's players that are maybe going to be leaving the club. We know that actually today, Austin FC PR announced that the important dates are, kind of scheduled to, they tweeted out the agenda pretty much of what's going to be happening here in the offseason shortly. And there's guys like Julio Cascante, there's guys like Elias Sanchez, there's guys like Dani Pereira, who in some way, they are waiting for some of these decisions to see what's going to be their future or I guess with Austin FC. We have here Wednesday, November 26th, the club deadline to exercise options and submit bona fide offers at 12 p.m. Central Time. So that's the first important date, November 26th. So just a little bit over 3 weeks there. That's going to be the first kind of important date to keep an eye out. Then you have Wednesday, December 10th, Primo. Saturday, December 13th. That's the MLS College Showcase. That's kind of getting into different stuff. Free agency opening December 10th. Then you got the reentry process, all that things. That this is when MLS starts to really get interesting when we're talking about the off season. But the departures, keep your eye out on that, mate. Like I said, Cascante, Elias Sanchez, Diego Rubio, Dani Pereira, Jimmy Farcarlin, Stephen Cleveland, just to name a few players that are on those options. So we'll see what Austin FC does. We'll know very, very soon. But you're excited for the signings. I'm keeping an eye out for the departures as well. And we'll see if this club brings in a little bit more help. I don't know exactly how much Austin FC has to spend, Primo, but I don't think that it is a lot. I've been hearing kind of, talks here and there that Austin doesn't have a lot going into this offseason, but we'll see if they can, make some magic work, or we'll see if they can work some magic, right? But it's going to rely on a lot of the departures and, of course, reshaping a lot of the finances. We were talking about Julio's contract and how that's kind of one of the last ones that they have to kind of get rid of, or the last ones that they kind of have to work around. And then this is really Rodo's financial picture, this financial roster. But we'll see what happens with Julio Cascante, that center back there. Any thoughts on him, mate? I know you left a cheeky comment on the post.
Oh, oh yeah. I don't know, man. It's just the I think that just the contract that he's on is definitely being looked at for sure. I think it's probably the main one that's being looked at. And it's not that he's a bad player or he's been here since the beginning, and he can give you something. He's really good at aerial duels. He'll get a header in there every now and then. I just think it's just the whole contract situation. If they can figure that stuff out and find a way to still keep him on the team, I wouldn't be too mad about it or upset. I think he is somewhat of a leader within the locker room. Definitely one of the veterans, and so it would be a little upsetting to see him leave just because of that contract. So
now, I would say before this last match, Primo, I was thinking that maybe there was going to be some reworking with his contract, right? I've never heard Rodo Borrell kind of publicly, talk about his contract or talk negatively about Julio. I think that Nico trusts him. I think we've seen the best version of Cascante in back fives. Also, that year 2022 with Ruben Gabrielson, I think that was kind of some of his best. But after the game, how, we have Alex in the locker room, getting videos and stuff of the players post match. You see Julio Cascante here, mate, towel on his head, body language, hand over his mouth, eyes kind of just staring off to nowhere. Next to him is Dani Pereira, already dressed out, chilling on his phone, probably scrolling TikTok. I don't know, ready to go, right? But based off of body language, this is kind of telling me a Julio Cascante. Maybe he's soaking in the last moments in the Austin FC locker room. Maybe the last time that he's going to be there. I don't know, mate. To me, I think, especially after the also this that came out from the Costa Rican insider Kevin Jimenez, which he tweeted out that he believes that Austin FC is not gonna, pick up his option, and Julio Cascante is gonna have to look for a new MLS team. I think it's done, brother. I think it's done. And, this is one of the last contracts that Rodo Borrell essentially has to kind of clean up, get rid of. And I don't think there's going to be another, last dance for Julio Cascante with Austin FC. I think this is it. I think, this guy, Kevin Jimenez, knows his stuff. He's the Costa Rican Fabrizio Romano. Let's just leave it at that. And if he's talking about it right now, I think it's because Julio Cascante's agents maybe want to make noise already, and this is alerting teams, hey, my client is going to be free at this time, so if you're interested, let's start talking. This is one of the only reasons why somebody like that would post a tweet like this. Do you see what I'm saying, Primo?
Yeah, no, for sure.
But hey, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just gonna comment on the whole, like, what agents try to do to boost their players' probability of getting signed right after. It is something that you see all the time. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that a lot of this is true. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see, mate. The tweet here, before we move on, Kevin Jimenez on Twitter, you can follow him, Kevin Jimenez CR. He says Julio Cascante will probably leave Austin FC. The club has the option to extend his contract for one more year, but as of today, it is difficult. He will have to enter the MLS process for a new club, just like Randall Leal. Randall Leal, he used to play for Nashville. He has a tattoo on his neck. He's pretty good. He's pretty good, Costa Rican baller. But yeah, we'll see what happens to Julio Cascante. I just think his future is not with Austin FC, and I think that he will be with a different club in 2026, based off of the information that's kind of coming out, and of course the writing that's on the wall. It does, just like Ozzy said. He said it doesn't take a genius to see that his contract definitely sticks out, and if the club were to pick up his option, Primo, I think it would also come with a little bit of a raise. I mean, imagine what the fans are going to say if they see Julio Cascante as center back earning close to 900,000, maybe a little bit over 900,000, just under 1 million. I mean, there's going to be more criticism thrown at him. So it might be best for both parties, but we'll see what happens. Those decisions will be made very soon, very shortly. So, hey, it is what it is. Best of luck to that lad. Best of luck to that gentleman, wherever his future is. Nothing but the best. OG, Austin FC OG right there, mate. OG, new era, brother.
We have the cleats.
We have the cleats, mate. New era, mate. This is crazy. Almost 6 years going in. A lot of the guys aren't here anymore from that first match. But hey,
yeah,
this is just football, mate. Reality of it. The club always stays. Unfortunately, players come and go. But all right, mate, we can start to talk about the match, game 2. I know a lot of folks have been waiting for this conversation, for this reaction, especially a lot of LAFC fans, because the conversation got crazy on social media. They definitely came after us. They were ready to attack a lot of the things that we were saying, especially if we sounded confident leading up to this game. Of course, the LAFC fans, pretty much, they knew that. Well, they're going to say that they knew this was going to happen. They're going to say that this was always going to happen, blah blah blah. But I don't know if you will agree with me that game 1 was there for the taking for Austin FC. I think you even said it yourself that they kind of lost that match. If Austin would have snagged game 1, oh man, game 2 would have been difficult. But there was things that went, not Austin FC's way, Bukari's injury. And I think that's a perfect place to kind of start in this topic of game 2, because of course, before the match starts, the lineup is dropped and we all wait for it. We all anticipate this graphic to come out on social media, that tells us who is going to start for Austin FC, Primo. And the first thing that I saw when I was going down the list, I was like, Stuver, of course, back 5, of course, boom, 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 John Gallagher, okay, boom, 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 okay, boom, boom. Where is Bukari? Where is Osman Bukari? I do not see Osman Bukari. And I have the lineup here on the screen, mate. In his place was Robert Taylor. Now, when I saw that, mate, no disrespect to the player, but the reality is that the stats have not backed him up at all this year, at all. Since his arrival to Austin FC has been completely underwhelming signing, a disaster of a signing. And the sensation, the thought, Primo, that I got when I saw his name on the team sheet was, it's kind of over before it starts, brother. I'm not gonna say that with Bukari, Austin FC was gonna demolish or beat LAFC for sure, but Primo, I think that with Bukari, your chances were at least there. They existed. Without Bukari, I was like, man, we're gonna need a freaking miracle. We're gonna need to be perfect against this LAFC tonight, and then all the mistakes happen. But starting with the Bukari situation, he was questionable, Primo, coming into this game. He wasn't even on the bench in game 2. What was going through your mind when you saw that Buka was not there?
Gutted for sure, man. Because I think the lineup that we had put out on game one, I think was perfect. I mean, it was definitely our strongest lineup. And Bukari, I know everyone's expecting him to score goals, of course, but in my opinion, his where he shines is those 1v1s, man. You put him in those situations. I honestly think he's probably like top five, maybe in the league on 1v1s.
On his best day,
If
for
you just
sure.
focus on that, if you just focus on the 1v1s, on the take-ons, he can take you on, and just that alone can create so many chances. And so, not seeing him on the bench, I was like, damn, it's gonna be a tough one. It is gonna be tough. Where I know we're at home, but without having that same lineup we had, I think that probably why we couldn't get on the scoreboard.
And I will say that there was at least 2 or 3 moments, Primo, where Robert Taylor got the ball, and I was like, okay, he made like the right decision at first. Then when it was time to make that second or third choice or decision, I must say, and he didn't make that one. And there was one where there was a clear counterattack, and it was favorable for Austin FC. And instead of playing the right or the proper ball, I mean, he plays a ball behind. I believe it was Owen Wolf or Mirto Usuri, completely cuts off the counter. LAFC intercepts quite easily, and that kind of just sums up Taylor. I mean, and I don't want to say that it's lack of quality. I'm gonna kind of maybe tack it to the lack of consistency in his gameplay. Of course, there's no rhythm there for him. There's no way for him to kind of have that kind of flow that a guy like Owen Wolf would have, a guy like Danny Pereira would have. The guys that see pitch, that see the pitch week in and week out. But that's also on the player for them to earn it on the training ground, etc. That's between them and the coach. And we just saw exactly what we were expecting from Robert Taylor. He only played 46 minutes. And just like I said, when I saw his name on the team sheet instead of Osman Bukari, in my head, I was like, man, it's almost over before it actually starts. And just like I said at the beginning of this, it was like, I'm not gonna say that Bukari was gonna be the reason that Austin was gonna win this game, but to score a goal against LAFC, you needed Bukari, and without him, your chances significantly dropped. And oh boy, they did. I mean, we'll get into some other topics here, but I just wanted to get that Bukari topic out there. But here on screen, we have the lineup again. Now, the back five, Primo, I think that was business as usual. Gallagher, Guilherme Biru, Brandon Hines-Ike, who had the lowest rating I've ever seen from him ever in an Austin FC jersey, 3.9. And we'll talk about maybe just how he got that here in a bit. Alexander Svatok and Mikel Desler, another guy that had a little bit of a blunder moment. Rating should be lower, but it is what it is. Brad Stuver, who maybe deserves a little bit more credit for this year's defensive kind of highlights, because we're saying the defense, fifth best, in the West. But the reality is, pretty much, that Brad Stuver was able to, block a lot of those shots, broke the record this year. So have to include the goalkeeper in a lot of those defensive, milestones that Austin FC reached this season. I think the defense owes Brad Stuver quite a bit. In the midfield, you had Danny Pereira, Ilya Sanchez, and in the attack, Owen Wolf, Mirto Usuni, who we're going to talk about here in a bit. And of course, a guy that we talked about a little bit, Robert Taylor, 46 minutes. He had a 6.2 match rating. I mean, what's going to happen with Robert Taylor in 2026. He's amongst the group of guys that a lot of fans want to see leave the club. I'm seeing a lot of conversation on social media, Primo, that Robert Taylor, get him out of the club. Some other players, get them out of the club. You know how fans are going to react to these kind of things, mate. But the reality is that one goal, when you're the fifth highest paid player, it's just not going to sit right with a lot of the fans. And of course, they're going to be saying these things when it comes to their club. But Mirto Usuni, mate, this is a guy that I want to talk about real quick, Primo. Now, why do I want to talk about him in specific before kind of a lot of the other guys? I know we talked about Robert Taylor and Osman Bukari kind of together, but a little bit of highlight on Mirto Usuni because he is supposed to be the talisman for Austin FC with Brandon Vázquez out. He is supposed to be the guy that oozes aura, that oozes this confidence, that oozes this quality for Austin FC. Somebody that brings confidence to the locker room and makes other guys better by having that belief in themselves. And it's been a little bit of a letdown this year, mate. If we're being quite honest, there was a lot of great things that this player did for Austin FC this year. When I'm talking about pressing, the energy, the commitment, more than anything, I think, and also being there for teammates in other moments. But these last two penalty misses, mate, those are the two big elephants in the room, and it is two. The penalty miss against Nashville, which was bad. The penalty miss against LAFC, which was worse than the one against Nashville. And it's difficult to believe that something could be worse than the penalty execution against Nashville. But the reality is that Mirto Usuni has missed two of the most important PKs in recent club history, mate. And I got to ask you, Primo, what are your thoughts? But before that, let's hear from Coach Nico Esteves. He was asked about this situation exactly, about the two penalties and why Mirto Usuni stepped up against LAFC. Before Nico says anything, I would have liked Mirto Usuni to have taken this penalty as well. But let's see what Coach has to say.
After Mirto missed the penalty against Nashville, were there any conversations on making a change and the penalty taker? And what is that process generally on deciding who takes the penalties?
Well, I think usually our takers are Brandon Vázquez, Mirto, Diego, Buka, and no one was there. And I think Mirto felt the responsibility to take the penalty. And I mean, I have to talk with him, but I felt like he was more afraid to miss than to, thinking positive to score. And this is why he shot the way that he shot. It's not normal for him to take a shot like that. And this is that sometimes that we it's difficult to the pressure, his position in the team and how to help the team and how to carry and help the team too. And then sometimes, it doesn't go in your way. I'm glad that Danny took the initiative to take the penalty and he converted and now we have to work with everyone about that.
Now, Primo, your thoughts, mate, on what Coach Nico had to say. I was in that press conference there. That was actually the last question that was asked. It was Eric Goodman. Now, as the days went by, I thought about it and I was like, wow, that was a really good question, first of all. And I wanted to ask Coach Nico a follow-up, but it was cut off right there. Media for Austin FC, they were like, okay, guys, we're gonna cut it off here. But my follow-up to that would have been, with the coaching staff, if Coach Nico kind of suspected that Mirto was on low confidence, then what was the penalty kick shootout going to look like if Austin FC managed to get to it with LAFC? Was Mirto Usuni part of the plan? And then Coach Nico says that he has to talk with him about it or whatnot. I don't know. I didn't really like this quote. Maybe it didn't come out the way that Coach Nico wanted it to, but what are your thoughts on it, brother?
Man, that's a lot. So I think my initial thoughts are, was this even discussed? Was this even like, if we do happen to get a penalty in this game, who's gonna take it? Because it kind of seems like he did throw Suni's name in that list, but he kind of made it seem like he was like maybe third person, fourth, even maybe the last person
Yeah.
to take that penalty if all those guys were available. Now, he did mention that no one was available, and Usuni felt maybe the need to, like, hey, none of these guys are around. I am part of this attacking.
He wanted to make up for
Um,
the Open Cup final, kind of that
yeah,
sentiment.
yeah, maybe he wanted to make up for that as well. He's like, you know what, give me that ball. And so I don't think he should have had taken that. I honestly wish that someone else would have stepped up.
Hmm.
That's another thing too that came to mind was, why isn't anyone stepping up, or why isn't anyone like, hey, I'll get this. It took the first penalty to be missed for Danny to be like, give me this ball, and that's good for him. I what Danny did, I think would I personally appreciate a lot, because it just says that, like, he's able to step up for this team, and um, he just took that initiative, and so um, I don't know. It's a lot to take in. Hopefully, Usuni can build up his confidence. Maybe not through penalties, but you are a forward. You can score those goals, give you some kind of confidence boost. But he is, missing back-to-back penalties like that is definitely takes a toll on someone, I think.
Now, of course, when this happened, everybody went to social media and started talking about Sebastian Drusi this, Sebastian Drusi that. But even Drusi had a moment where he couldn't score pens. I mean, remember that little spell where Drusi was missing penalties, they were saving them, and he was frustrated. He was pulling his jersey. He was cursing to the freaking clouds, the freaking sky. That was Drusi for a little bit. And sometimes these players, they go through these, through these periods of kind of being down in the rut, down in the just in and especially right now, Primo, I've seen conversation online on social media of, should we sell Mirto? Should we loan Mirto? Should we get rid of him or whatnot? I'm not following that. I'm not with that group, right? I've seen time and time again that DPs, when they come into this league, if they don't start hot, then they roll, they roll into year two, and they ultimately or eventually kick it on. And I just want to give him that one more year, that 2026. And after that, I'll be ready to decide if I'm going to want to move on from this designated player. 2025 was difficult for a lot of people on this roster, for the coaching staff, for a lot of the players, for Brandon Vázquez. And I think it's gonna take a lot of reflection. It's gonna take a lot of kind of self-criticism from these players, from the coaching staff as well. We were talking about the goals, 37. I mean, one of the lowest in the entire league. I mean, that is unacceptable. And I think 2026 has to be somewhat of a redemption season for Mirto Usuni. I think mentally he has to bounce back. The coaching staff has to help him out themselves as well. But I'm not ready to sell or move on from this player. I'm gonna back him. I'm gonna show support. I think that in 2026, this is a player that's gonna click on, that's gonna start it off, Primo. But I want to get your thoughts. You think that Mirto is going to ultimately kick it on in 2026, or are you with those people that are saying, "Hey, we need to maybe start thinking about getting rid of this guy"?
I think I agree with you. I think I don't think I'm ready to move on from Mifito Suni quite yet. It's it's a different league for sure. Coming into MLS, a whole different league. He also had some personal things go on. He had his child be born this year. A lot of travel between like the international breaks. It's a longer trip from the U.S. to his country, from Spain, and from where he was back then in Spain. And so give him one more season. I think give him one more season, and then we can finally say yes or no, because I think after having a couple things going also with the team, if we the way he came in really confident. He came in about talking about breaking records, and I think if he's able to find that confidence again, you have this off season to really reflect on how it went. On if you need to get something with your mental health figured out, there's time now. I think the pressure's off a little bit, and hopefully all that just helps. So definitely think you mentioned, the coaching staff definitely needs to support him. I think he just needs all the support he can get right now. And I think he can be that guy, man. I think he can, he didn't win the Golden Boot for nothing. And so I think he can deliver. I think give him one more season.
And some numbers here. Mirto Suni in 2025 in the Open Cup, 5 appearances, 3 goals. In the MLS regular season, 27 appearances, 6 goals, 3 assists, and in the postseason, 2 appearances. On transfer market, there's no assists to his name, but on the Austin FC website, they have him. I think it's one of those hockey assists, most likely. And the one that John Gallagher scored away. Mirto Suni laid it off to Owen Wolf. Owen Wolf laid it off to John Gallagher, but definitely not the numbers that the people want associated with Usuni, not the numbers that Mirto Usuni wants to have associated with himself. But I think the confidence here is everything, mate. What does he need to be at his best level, confidence wise, mentally wise? Does he need his family to be here 24/7? I don't think that they're with him right now. I think that his family is back in Europe. So right now he's going to be joining his national team most likely. I think they have a qualifier and a friendly, if I'm not mistaken. But this offseason, if he needs to reconnect with his family, go ahead and do it, and then just be ready to go here in 3 months. I think we can give him 2026, but then after that, it's definitely going to be more. It's already right now Primo, magnifying glass on him 100%. When you're a designated player, the magnifying glass is on you 1000%. But I do believe that we need to give this guy the 2026 season, or at least a big chunk of it, to see if there's some kind of bounce back, or see if there's really that 2-year rule for those MLS players that everybody always sees and talks about. I'm not ready to move on from Mirto Usuni just yet, especially after the investment that was made. I mean, $12 million. I mean, you got to give that investment at least a second season to see if it pans out. And, the last thing you would want is to get rid of Mirto Usuni and then you let him go somewhere else and he freaking kills it. And, like, dang it, we should have waited a little bit, or we should have done everything possible to make him comfortable and, kind of let him develop into the person that he wants to be at Austin FC. And last thing on the penalty, I don't think anybody would have taken that ball away from Mirto Usuni other than Diego Rubio. He's the only person that would be like, give me that ball, it's mine, get away. Everybody else would have been like, okay, you take it. I don't know. That's just my take on it. But hey, we'll see what happens there. Mirto Usuni is going to definitely be something, a big storyline heading into 2026. And Phil West had actually just dropped a great article on Mirto Usuni comparing him to Rigoni. Folks are saying that Mirto is the new Rigoni, but
come on.
the stats are on Mirto's side, but he's slowly slipping into that area, mate. We gotta be honest. He's slowly slipping into that, at least that lore of bad DP signings. But let's give him 2026, and then after that, we will kind of decide on where Mirto Usuni ranks for designated players with Austin FC. Not good enough in 25. Those 2 penalty kicks will live in history forever in Austin FC fans' memories. And he has the opportunity for redemption in 26, and we'll see if he takes it or not. Now, real quick, mate, to talk about the LAFC goals, because, of course, this is where we really kind of get into some of these Austin FC players. And I don't know. Folks are going to say that maybe I was being too harsh, especially on the Brad Stuver mistake that I called mistake. Folks are saying that they would have done it as well, that it was not the mistake, but it's one of the things that we're kind of gonna get into here in this next segment. But the match highlights, right? We're kind of got to get our reactions out of the way. And the first one, Primo, that I want to talk about is the Desler mistake. Now that's the first one, the first goal that LAFC scored. It's the Sun counterattack that really just left Ilia Sanchez looking like Puyol in that famous highlight of Di Maria when he was the youngster at Real Madrid. But we got to talk about it. Now, I'm a little disappointed with Mikel Desler, more than a little disappointed with Mikel Desler in this situation, Primo, because I'm somebody that has backed Mikel Desler the entire season. I still do. This doesn't kind of, bring me down from where I'm at with Mikel, but he looked like a deer caught in headlights in this situation. I think that he had the opportunity to take any kind of shot, absolutely any kind of shot, Primo. It could have been a field goal. It could have gone to one taco. It could have gone to Little Patagonia. It could have gone to the Verde store, right? Because it was on the north side. it doesn't matter. But the fact that he decided to hold on to the ball, lose it to a double team situation there that LAFC got him in. And there was no foul there. There was no foul. I know some people were asking for a foul. There was no foul in the playoffs. Coach Nico even said it. Coach Nico even said that in the playoffs, the referees, they call things differently. They let it get more physical, and this is being more physical in the playoffs. So people calling for a foul here, there was nothing in this situation, and it was all on Mikel holding on to the ball, and Austin paid for it in transition on the counter. LAFC no perdonan. They do not waste these kind of chances. And Son, your boy, Tottenham boy, he makes Ilya Sanchez pay, makes Brad Stuver pay, and that was their first goal. What was going through your mind, mate?
Oh man, yeah, I think I'm like looking at it now. I'm like, why didn't he shoot, man? Why did he not shoot? He had that space to take a shot, and if it hits someone's hand, if it goes over, who cares? But the thing is that you get it out of that area, and then that counterattack is man, Sonny's just he showed his world class there. One little step over, got Ilya, and you see him score that goal time after time in Tottenham, and so seeing it in person was just probably hurt even more because you just see it, and you know it's one simple mistake that costs us a lot. So at the same time, you have two world class players coming at you at a counterattack like that. It's tough, man.
It is tough, mate. It is tough. And, Austin FC, as great as they've been defensively this season, just like you said, when you have two world class players like that coming at you, it's just difficult to, kind of withstand that pressure. And you see why LAFC invested the millions and millions of dollars to bring Son to LAFC to get goals like that, moments of magic. And that's kind of what he's going to do for sure this postseason with LAFC. Now, the second thing here, the second highlight that I wanted to talk about, other than Mikel Desler's mistake that led to Son's first playoff goal, is another mistake that Austin FC committed. And it was the Hines-Ike bad pass that leads to Son being put into space. And this is when Brad Stuver comes out, mate. Now, for me, I don't think that Son was that clear on goal. I don't think that he was one-on-one with Brad Stuver just yet. A lot of people are disagreeing with me. They're saying that Brad Stuver had made the right decision to come out. Ultimately, he lost the gamble. I was very surprised that, well, not very surprised, but I was very relieved, Primo, that there was no contact and, fouled Son, and there was like a red card, or, Brad Stuver accidentally touched the ball with his hand and there was a red card for that reason. That would have been an emergency. Stephen Cleveland would have came in. You would have lost an outfield player. It would have been just sit back and defend for Austin FC at that point. Fortunately and unfortunately, there's no contact. Brad Stuver kind of, misses the ball, loses that gamble, like I said. And then from there on, you know what happens. Son finds Bouanga and he scores LAFC second. But do you think, Primo, that it was a mistake from Brad Stuver, or did he make the right decision?
It's a mistake. It's a mistake. And I think he does two mistakes, I think, in my opinion. I think he does one where he comes out because, yes, I don't think it's I think the defense gets there on time. And then the second mistake I'm seeing is once Sonny gets past him, he's still focused on Sonny, and he even kind of runs towards him a little bit as he has the ball. He's still outside the box. If you're running towards him, there's not much you can do. You're leaving the goal still open. After he got past him, if I was Brasser, I would have just jetted straight to the goal, and have a better chance of covering something, because once Bouanga shoots, he's just barely getting there. So definitely, I see it as two mistakes, but it was tough, man. I think it came out a little bit out of desperation. I think that first goal was tough, and then they were coming at us again quick right after the first goal, and I think just Brad Stewart was just wasn't wanting to he didn't want a second goal to go in that quick, and unfortunately it did.
And Coach Nico post match, mate, he said something very interesting. He said that for him in this game, it seemed like his players kind of just like they got taken too much by the moment. They wanted to attack. They wanted to win this game so much that it created a lot of these little mistakes or moments of disconcentration for Austin FC. And this was one of those moments for me more than anything that it really showed that, just like I mentioned earlier in the pod, that it wasn't what Austin FC had been doing this season. It wasn't, kind of the whole reflection of their work in 2025, but especially in this goal. I mean, bad pass from Hines-Ike. Stuver, questionable decision to come so far out of his box, and then the chaos to be defending on the goal. Stuver running back, Dani Pereira running back into the box. I mean, it just looks like a little bit of a circus for me, mate, and that's not what Austin FC was defensively. They were not a circus back there, but in this goal, it was just if I was watching this game on my laptop and this goal would have happened, I would have closed it and I would have been like, I think that's enough. I think that's enough. And it didn't stop there. That was the craziest part. The third goal rolled around, and it was also a questionable defending. Again, there's a cross, a long ball into Austin FC's defensive third, LAFC's final third. Mikel Desler, he doesn't even contest the air ball. LAFC's players able to jump very easily. The ball lands to none other than a freaking Denny Bouanga, who puts on one of the nicest moves on Brandon Hines-Ike, one of the best defenders for Austin FC this season. And like we showed earlier, I mean, on screen here, ending the match with a 3.9 rating and a yellow card. I mean, this is one of the best defenders Austin had all season. Just outclassed, schoolboy defending in this game. And it was a night that you had to be perfect. A night that you had to be 100%, and it was a night to forget for Austin FC defenders there in those 3 goals against LAFC. And it was little mistakes that led to the goals. It was things that could have been avoided 100%. And just like I mentioned, you had to be perfect. You couldn't commit these kind of mistakes. And boy, did Austin FC let themselves slip into that situation 1,000, maybe 1,000,000%, brother. And it's just frustrating because I feel like, again, they shoot themselves in their own foot. I feel like that was a theme a lot this season, and that also kind of takes me into 2026 and why I'm excited for this new season to roll into, because I'm hoping a lot of these things are corrected. I'm hoping a lot of the things are worked on in this off season, and hopefully the product. I'm expecting the product to be better in 2026, mate. 1,000% on that one. But the third goal, just the move that Bouanga puts on Hines-Ike. Primo, any thoughts on that one?
I think the third goal was probably the worst one. I think out of all of them, that one was tough. My boy Hines-Ike getting that messy Boateng treatment almost. It's tough to see, man. But again, you're going against world-class players. You let him beat you on that run, and you pay for it. So that one was for sure hard to watch. But it's just, and then, like you mentioned, schoolboy defending, I think.
And it was, I think Bouanga, I don't know if he meant to do this or not. Some quality players actually try to do this. I mean, this is next level kind of stuff. But he makes Hines-Ike almost run into Svatok, or Svatok almost run into Hines-Ike where he has to jump over him. I mean, that is next level stuff. When kind of like wide receivers, when they run their routes a certain way that makes, players in this secondary run into each other. I mean, that's next level stuff. And Denny Bouanga, it wouldn't surprise me if that's in his locker room to, kind of manipulate defenders' positioning and run so that they kind of run into their own teammates. And that's exactly what happened to Austin FC. And just like I said, Primo, what was most frustrating was that Austin has done things so well this season defensively that this is the final image that they showed to a big chunk of the world that was watching this game, because everybody loves Son. That's exactly what they were doing. They were watching Son, and they got to see him put on a clinic against this Austin FC line of defense, and it just was not good. Now, something does happen for Austin FC. Dani Pereira scores the penalty. I think you kind of hinted at it earlier. Now, it was a foul on Beto in the box. There was a slap to the face. A lot of LAFC fans talking about, oh, these are penalties that were given to Austin FC. They were given by the referee. Have some shame. You took the win, but have some shame. I think that they were rightfully called. I think if LAFC was on the other side of this, they would be flooding social media with allegations that Austin FC had paid this referee to not give them these calls. Fortunately, one of them was made. Unfortunately, one of them was missed. But it should have been 2 goals for Austin FC from the spot. That's on the club, on the execution from the penalty kick. But I think that they were rightfully called. I don't think that there's any argument there, Primo. Biru didn't have to sell anything. VAR called it. They called the referee to the monitor. He ended up telling the stadium what the decision was. And I think that that was the right call. I don't think that there was much in it. There was a slap in the face, boom. And then there was a handball from Denny Bouanga in the first one. Now, the last goal here, the bad pass from Mirto Usuni to Danny Pereira, which leads to another LAFC counter later in the game. By this time, Austin FC is probably all the way thrown into the front. They don't really care about what's going on defense. It's kind of Hail Mary moment. Ibobasi, he always scores against Austin FC. He gets one against Austin again, puts the ball behind Brad Stuber. But Primo, I mean, number one, any thoughts on Danny Pereira's finish? And number two, Mirto Usuni again with the bad instance in this match, a bad moment in this match with the terrible back pass to Danny, which shouldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, I think props again to Danny for stepping up and taking that penalty. I don't think it was probably the best penalty. Yoris does get a hand on it, but he shoots it hard enough for it to go through. And so, and then scoring against Yoris, I mean, come on, man. World class goalkeeper there. So props to Danny for getting that done, and then for also giving us a little bit of hope at that moment. And it's overall, I mean, it was just tough, you know. Bobasi, like you mentioned, always scoring on us. Left Earthquakes, joins LAFC, still scores on us. But he's a good player too. I think he's a good because I think last season he was one of those players that didn't get picked up or something happened with his contract. And we were talking about like that's someone I would want to see at Austin FC as
100%.
you know as maybe a backup striker even he can
100%.
get the job done. But overall, man, it's a tough score. I don't think anyone had that one in their prediction. Right? The 4-1.
No, not even Bali. Not even Bali
Not
was
even Bali.
brave enough to throw a 4-1 out there, mate. No, not at all, not at all. But just to mention a couple of things here, it was the first couple of losses to LAFC in 2025. 6 goals against, 2 goals for. I'm talking about Austin FC stats versus LA in the series. No Vázquez, no Bukari in game 2, and no Rubio in either of these matches. So Austin definitely missing some firepower there. LAFC was at full force, was at 100%. And I just got to ask you, people, I mean, just what are our overall thoughts on this series? Kind of closing out on this LAFC game. I mean, I guess for me, I was confident going into this game too, just like I mentioned earlier. But when I saw the lineup, I mean, my hope it was deflated. It was kind of like a punch to the gut, not seeing Bukari on the roster at all, not on the bench, not on the starting 11. And game 1, I felt like it could have been there for Austin FC. Primo, I think that Austin, they approached the game the right way. I know B was he was criticizing the team for not, kind of going more for it there at the end of the game. But I think chances were kind of there for Austin. Also, the entire match is just a problem with finishing. And just like I mentioned, guys were not there. The guys were not there for Austin. They didn't have Bukari to 100%. They didn't have Brandon Vázquez. And of course, they didn't have Diego Rubio. 3 guys that could finish these chances for you. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. But how did you see this series? I mean, LAFC fans probably expected it to go this way, but I don't know. I think for a little bit, Austin had some kind of chance to go on to the next round.
Yeah. Now that the game 2 is over, we get a better picture on how all this played out. I feel like maybe we would have won that game 1 for sure. I think we would have won the series. I think that's probably where we made the mistake of maybe not going all out on that first game to get that win. Because you come back home, you defend as and then you force maybe the penalties, get you that second win, and you're done. But it could have played out so many different ways. It's unfortunate that it played out how it did. I like the series. I like the best 2 out of 3. I like that it's 2 games minimum, and so hopefully they keep it that way. But just tough loss, especially against LAFC. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like losing against them.
I don't like losing against LAFC either, mate. Unfortunately, the roll of the dice ended up having us playing this team, and it sucks because their fans are rowdy. Their fans came after any kind of Austin FC fan on social media. They were letting them have it, and it is what it is with these guys. I mean, they're always going at it with somebody on socials. And I mean, LA is a team that they're built for titles. They had Vela, they had Bell, Chiellini. They played us before. They beat us in the Western Conference. They knocked out Austin in Leagues Cup. Austin is able to do the job against LAFC in the regular season, but regular season is one thing, and playoffs, elimination football is a completely different thing. And I think LAFC is able to switch onto that chip, and they're able to recruit these world-class players. I mean, we're playing against Hyomin's son, for crying out loud. He's an LAFC player. He literally wears the black and gold. He wears the LAFC crest, and they have Denny Bouanga to complement him, to go along with him. Now, Austin, maybe it's a little bit more difficult for them to recruit these players. Remember when Austin was linked with Kevin De Bruyne? That would have been absolutely magical if they would have landed him. But hey, I think on paper, a lot of people had LAFC, just going over this Austin FC side when this series was kind of drawn up. And I think Austin FC gave a good fight at the end of the day, Primo. I think they gave a good fight, at least in the first game. In the second game, like I said, it was over before it started without Osman and Bukari and having Robert Taylor there. But if game one would have gone a little bit differently, maybe a draw and then gone to PKs, they had that weird Nathan Ordaz goal, which apparently was onside. I got a lot of flack for even criticizing that goal in the comments. But LAFC fans are going to be very passionate. Got to give them credit for that one. But like I said, I think there was good fight in game one, Primo. Game two, it was just an embarrassing display especially the first 45 minutes when it was 3-0 at one point. Not what Austin FC was this year, not what Austin FC was doing defensively at all in 2025. And I was just disappointed that people got that image of Austin again, that Austin FC 1.0 defensive blunders, Austin FC 1.0 bad passes, not secure, leaking, Stuver coming off of his line. This was not Austin FC 2.0 that I've got used to defensively this year. And, definitely something to reflect on and move on from and grow from 100%. And we'll see just what 2026 holds. But as for this series, I think the world is going to say, hey, we knew this was going to happen. But in my mind, I will think to myself that Austin FC, if they would have done a little bit better in game one, result-wise, I think this series would have been completely different. Maybe a game three would have been on the cards. But it is what it is. Now, some other Austin FC news, Primo. We got a little bit of stuff here to talk about. Julio Cascante set to leave the club. I mean, we talked about that earlier a little bit at the beginning of the pod. We mentioned Kevin Jimenez, the insider, that was talking about his contract probably not going to be picked up, his option not going to be picked up by the club. So kind of hinted at that already. Also here we have Cascante asking to join the Costa Rican national team now that the season is over, and Austin FC saying, hey, it's cool, you can go. We also talked about that a little bit about, kind of agents playing mind games there. Svatok called up to the Ukraine national team for the World Cup qualifiers. I'm sure Usuni will be also following that list here soon with Albania. We talked about that a little bit as well. And then new academy personnel from Spain. I think that's pretty cool to kind of talk about here and there. We have here Juan Carlos Morales, boss of the Department of Analysis of the Academy of Hercules. He will join Austin FC as the analysis of the academy. So that's dope. That's dope. I'm excited for that. Especially me, somebody that sometimes goes to these academy games, keeps up with these academy results, and honestly know a couple of the academy players. I think I have a little bit of prospects, a couple of players, Primo. I'm not going to lie, that I say, hey, hopefully that kid makes it up to FCito and then ultimately to the first team. But any thoughts, Primo? Any closing thoughts on the quick Austin FC news there?
Um, I mean, just we try to keep up with everything that goes on with Austin FC. So, excited to kind of see these little moves. I'm sure we're gonna get them every now and then. This whole off season. So, and we'll be there to cover it. I think that's also the fun part about the off season is coming across these types of news, these little changes that can add up to something. But exciting, excited for the new season to start.
100%, man. Excited for the new season to start. Excited to see if this Austin FC side is able to get Mirtu Suni out from this, confidence rut that he's in and get him out of there because we know he got the quality. We know that he could put the ball to the back of the net, but we need this guy to be there mentally, physically, emotionally, everything 100%. So that's going to be one of the things that I'm mainly excited for in 2026, brother. But real quick, Primo, before we get out of here, of course, just some other news to talk about here in the world of footy. Of course, we had Real Madrid lose out to Liverpool. I know a lot of people are going to be waiting for your opinion on this game because they know that you support Real Madrid. Thoughts on this match, mate? I mean, Liverpool getting away with one. I don't know if you see it like that. I see a lot of conversation that Courtois saved Real Madrid from an absolute blowout. But what was your thoughts on this match, Real Madrid against Liverpool?
It was. I think Liverpool did good. No, honestly, I think Liverpool did what they needed to do to get that goal. They were knocking for a while, and it was good. It was a good header. It was a good cross in. It was a good header. Courtois unfortunately couldn't get there, but he did save a lot. A little surprised that Mbappe didn't get on the score sheet. He's been on fire lately, so I was expecting him to at least score one. But and then you had Vinny in there as well. Didn't really see too much of him. It's the Champions League. It's this whole new league system, so we're not. It doesn't knock us off too bad. I think there's went down to like 6 or 7, something like that. But we'll see how it plays out. There's this Champions League, league system is a little different. You play a lot of bigger teams throughout the competition, so one loss shouldn't define how the rest of the campaign is gonna go. So, but it was a good game. I think it was fun to watch for Liverpool fans at least.
For Ozzy, for sure, he
For
came out.
Ozzy,
He came out on the
he
freaking
needed
Spanish
that. He
pod.
needed that.
He needed that 100%. He needed that, especially after this Austin FC stuff that happened here at the end of the year in the Open Cup. And I mean, the run that Liverpool was on too was not good. I mean, everybody, all the "You Never Walk Alone" fans needed this 1000%, and they got it. They got it. It's going just like you mentioned. This Champions League format, it is a little bit more forgiving. It has the playoff system or whatnot, so you just got to make the cut. And I'm sure Real Madrid is going to be like, hey, we lost to Liverpool. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be thinking about, oh, well, Liverpool has tremendous quality, a lot of great players on that side. And I think it kind of just points out some of the things that Real Madrid still has to work on. I think you and I both know that this is not a final version of Real Madrid. I think new coach. I think he might be clashing heads with some of the players. We see what's happening with Vini. His for me, Xavi's system is not 100% there yet. At least his main philosophy is not 100% there yet with this Real Madrid side, and it's going to be growing little bit by bit. Chemistry is going to be building with this coaching staff and with these players, and by no means is this a final product for Real Madrid. And I think this Liverpool side is better assembled. If I'm not mistaken, they're better assembled right now. I think that they have more organization. They know whose role does what in this side, and they're a team that has won things together. Real Madrid has also won things together themselves, but I just see a little bit more maturity from this Liverpool side than this Real Madrid side, and I think the maturity is going to come with time with this new Real Madrid team. But I'm mainly looking at Vini to getting his act together. Mainly looking at Vinny to stop being a little bit of a virus, a little bit of a toxicness for the locker room, because this Real Madrid side can do something really good, and Vinny Jr. will steal the headlines because he lashes out and does something bad. And And I think this Real Madrid side, especially with some of the new signings that they had, they don't need that negative, kind of lights on them. They need to kind of be in an environment where they're doing good, where they're growing themselves. I mean, Arda Guler, youngster, he needs to be in an environment where he's thriving and doesn't have the media just at his neck, breathing
Yeah,
down, trying to create scandals or whatnot. And Vini creates this kind of stuff for his own teammates, and it's not good. It's
yeah,
not good. And I'm sure Xavi is pissed.
no, for sure. Yeah, he kind of needs to clean up his attitude. It's been a little bit off the rails this season, and yeah, like you said, just creates that unnecessary drama.
No, but also you can't blame this whole loss on just one guy, Vinicius Jr. It's not him. He's gonna be like, oh well, whenever we lose, it's on Vinny. When we win, it's because of the whole team, right? This is a team sport. It is a team loss. Liverpool definitely needed this game. They wanted to bounce back too. You got to put that factor in there. But still, Real Madrid is a team that's gonna try to win every single match. Doesn't matter who they're playing against, and it's
Right.
just gonna be focusing on the next match. Just like you mentioned, the format is different. It's more forgiving, and I think they're just going to be focused on the next game now. But all right, mate, we're going to get out of here, brother. Anything else you want to mention, bro? I know that we have an episode coming up this weekend with Bali and B. We'll talk more about the end of the season for Austin FC, get their thoughts. But anything you want to add on, bro?
Um, I mean, it was a good season, I think, overall. Shout out to everyone that showed up. We still have, I think, a strong fan base, finishing this fifth year and then going into the sixth. I think it's gonna stay the same. So really appreciate everyone that goes out and supports. I know it can be a little tough sometimes, but and then everyone that's just supported us throughout the season. Another season for the books, and I'm excited for Sunday. I'm excited to be with Volley. I'm excited to be with B and get their take. So that should be a good episode. So.
Now, last thing, Primo, that I do want to ask you, and I think I had to throw this into this episode, and I'm going to ask Bali, I'm going to ask Brian this as well, but what are your thoughts on Rolo Borrell's work this year with Austin FC 2025? I mean, there was a lot of hype going into the season. Remember that graphic of 30 million spent? Brandon Vázquez, he goes out hurt. Mirtu Suni didn't really work out this season when we're talking about the goals. Osman Bukari didn't play one of the most important games of the season. I'm talking about game 2 against LAFC due to injury. I mean, what are your thoughts on his work? I mean, he also brought in other guys, Svatok, Saovic, Guilherme Biru, Djordjevic. I mean, Taylor. How did he do?
I think he did pretty decent. I mean, he cleaned up a lot starting at the beginning of the season, and he got us Brandon Vázquez, man. I think no one was really expecting that, and then bam, it just happens. And the way I'm not gonna forget that press conference where he got emotional, and so it kind of showed that he was really putting in work, and so. At the end of the day, people are gonna see that price that amount that was spent. 30 mil is no joke, especially in MLS. And but at the end of the day, it's we had some bad luck with injuries for sure, and so that's already out of Rose control. And they're investments. They consider it as as investments, and so how in a perfect world, you invest in something and you get a return right away. And anything that would be a perfect world, but sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you might not see something until season 2. So I think just give it some time with the new players that he brought in. But I think he did overall pretty good.
Well, we'll see. We'll see just kind of how that ends up aging for my G Primo here. A lot of folks are kind of criticizing Rolo Borrell on social media for this season. Of course, he's not the coach, he's not the player, he's the sporting director. His job is to bring in the talent, to recruit these players, to have his scouting networks all over the world, bringing in the right guys more than anything, the right guys that are going to perform here in this heat, that are going to perform in this stadium. I've heard of some big names that couldn't handle the pressure from Q2 that you would be shocked. Just you got to bring the right guys more than anything
No, for
to this
sure.
Austin side, to this Q2 Stadium side. And honestly, my opinion on Rodo Borrell this season, mate, I'm very happy with where the club is going financially when we're talking about wages and stuff. I think now at the end of the day, of course, you look back and you think, well, you know what? Maybe we spent too much money in maybe the wrong positions. Maybe we should have gone another way. But I at the time, I do remember being very excited, of course, about the signing of Brandon Vázquez. I thought that was the right thing to do. Of course, we were all happy with the signing of Osman Bukari, $7 million. We thought that there was good money spent. Mirto Osuni, when he arrived, he was making those quotes that were getting everybody excited. 12.5 million. They're spent 12.3. I'm sorry, for the release clause. So if the penalty against Nashville had gone in and Austin FC wins the US Open Cup final, Mirto Suni essentially kind of wins you that trophy. And I think the conversation and the dialogue is different. But if Brandon Vázquez doesn't get injured and he finishes the year and he has double-digit goals, I mean, I think we're talking about that investment quite differently as well. And Bukari, the only thing you could think about is if those two players don't kind of have overwhelming seasons and don't go out injured for the season, I think Bukari has more assists. Maybe he ends up having more chemistry with them. But a lot of what ifs, and and that's why pretty much I want to give 2026 a go with this trio, because I want to see just what they can do together. I feel like we were robbed of that in 2025. The
Right.
Bukari, the Mirto Suni, the Brandon Vázquez, trio, the three-headed dragon that Ozzy used to always talk about. We were robbed of it 100%, and hopefully we get to see it flowing and going and blowing, fire in 2026. But when I'm talking about Rodo Borrell, I think of course the DP signings, you can criticize them and say that they didn't work out because of the numbers, but some of the other guys that he had brought into the club, I think I'm also kind of happy about. Mateja, Hines-Ike, Svatok, very low wage players, very low salary, and if it wasn't for the designated players this season, that situation there, I think we'd be talking about this year's signings quite differently. But hey, you can't change anything of those because it's already history. And just like I mentioned earlier, I'm excited, Primo, for this offseason that's coming up. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Rodo Borrell to see what he can do, to see what he can muster up, see what kind of reinforcements he brings. Because hey, I can tell you what Austin FC needs, and it's a creative player in the middle. I mean, somebody desperately to create those chances. You cannot rely on no one. And Primo, anything else that you want to say before we get out of here?
I think we covered everything. I think. Oh well, if I'll give a quick shout out to Mr. Olin Wolf for sure. I think he was our breakout player of the season. I think he was probably our best player of the season. So good for him. But yeah, he's doing well, but we still need someone in that midfield. I think I agree with you on that for sure. But again, excited for 2026. 2026 already, man. That's crazy to even say that.
That is very
Um,
crazy.
2026. I can't wait for the preseason games. I can't wait. I think we got invited to the Coachella Valley tournament that they
Yeah.
have. So, all of that's exciting to see. So,
To close out, Primo, to close out, not only were we invited to the Coachella, obviously the club, but expect some fun stuff from with Austin TV at the media game, 2025 Media Cup game. Got the invite, gonna be out there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Trying to get the back to back on the MVP award. I'd love to, but I've been told that nobody has ever done it, so it's gonna be a challenge. I'm gonna try to do it, and we'll see what happens. It's gonna be coming up before the year ends, so we're gonna have hopefully we're gonna have a lot of fun content coming out of that day, just like last year. But gonna try to do a little bit more now that we know how things work, how things are. Hopefully we can do a little bit more this year from our side to create content, and hopefully you guys can enjoy it there at home. But alrighty, guys, we'll get out of here. More this weekend in the stew with Bali. Primo and I will be there as well. Talk more about this LAFC series, talk more about the end of the year for Austin FC, talk more about the job that Rodo Borrell and Nico Esteves did this season. and some of the Austin FC players that you just have to get into their performance of 2025 and dissect their season, their year. But all of that this offseason, expect transfer rumors, expect other news here and there, and we'll be there to cover it.
I got one last thing. One last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Austin FC is officially out and our season is officially over, who do you think's taking this whole thing, man? Who do you see winning this MLS Cup?
I think it's between Vancouver and LAFC. I think the champion comes out from there. Yeah, I think so. I don't think anybody in the East can handle these two guys.
I have my money on San Diego.
No, I'm
liking San Diego right now. I'm liking San Diego.
Hey, you just never know. But I see a collapse coming in San Diego eventually. I see it happening. They can't go on forever like this. I think Vancouver has the consistency because they know what it takes. LA knows what it takes to get into these final stages of MLS Cup playoffs, and I think San Diego is going to burn out here eventually. I think so. I don't see them taking it. That's crazy talk. But we'll see. We'll see, mate. I think Vancouver or LA, one of those two.
Vancouver, LA. That's gonna be
a West.
a good matchup. So
it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be somebody from the West too.
From the West.
Yeah, and I mean Vancouver could be it because they got the defender of the year, and then they have a great line up top. I mean, careful with these guys. Thomas Mueller, brother. But all right, Primo, we're gonna get out of here. We'll have more coming up this weekend. We'll talk more about the playoffs. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Ciao.